This episode is in partnership with Authority Magazine. Authority Magazine, a Medium publication, is devoted to sharing in-depth and interesting interviews featuring people who are authorities in business, pop culture, wellness, social impact, and tech. There is so much talk about what to do with the next generation. Who are going to be our next leaders?
And yet, very few take the time to question how younger people can cope in this fast-changing and challenging world.
That's where Krystel Beall comes in as a member of the Beall Department Store family. She now throws her weight behind nurturing young mothers, kids, teens, and anyone else trying to navigate through it all. Krystel Beall, welcome to Believe in People.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Listen, why do you think it's important to be a member of a community, to be a participant in the world that we live in?
Oh my goodness. Honestly, I feel like that's kind of my sole mission in life. I had a very interesting childhood, and there were times where I really needed resources that I didn't necessarily get, or certain aspects in community involvement that I wanted to be involved in, but didn't really have that opportunity. So I feel like the older I've gotten and the more opportunities that have kind of almost fallen into my lap. It's funny how divine timing works with your soul mission. But I've just made it kind of my purpose to give back, even when I couldn't really afford to, when I was single and on my own and struggling to put myself through college. I always made a point to do something, whether it was community service but really giving back to children and education and stuff like that has really been something that pulls my heartstrings. Because like I said, I needed that as a child. So I'm one of those pay it forward kind of people. I feel like the more I can do it and show my children that it's just, I don't want to say the right thing to do, but just something to do from the heart that makes you feel good. So just modeling that behavior, and hopefully everyone else will catch on, and we'll just have a world of everyone helping everyone.
And that's interesting, Krystel, because you mentioned your childhood a couple of times. What was it in your childhood that sort of motivated you to want to help your community?
I had very young parents, and my father died. They were 18 and 20, but mid 80s, and kind of partiers and whatnot. And my father died in a car accident when I was 2. Wow. And after that, my mom, she just couldn't deal. She had her own way of handling it. So I was raised by my grandparents. So, I experienced a lot of kind of generational gaps, and I was the first person to go to college in my family. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I signed up for private student loans, and, just the little kind of day-to-day things that I wish I would have kind of had that guidance or that mentoring. And that's what's really led me into, and I was also exposed to quite a bit of, there was violence and substance abuse and things like that, throughout periods of my childhood that now I realize caused some complex PTSD. So just really understanding those environmental factors that can help children, and really the entire family, because even though my mission is to help children and give them a chance, but if we're not touching the entire family unit, we're still missing in that bridge in the gap. So really just expanding those resources to the families. And, like I said, I was raised by my grandparents. So I'm sure there's educational components and financial components that they could have utilized to help our life situation a little bit more.
What do you think it's like? What do you think it's like to be a kid these days? Do you think it's even more challenging than perhaps when you or I were growing up?
I really do, honestly. We have 4 kids collectively. I have 2 bonus sons, a 13-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son. So we have all the things going on in our house right now. And absolutely, I do. You have the social media and the cyberbullying, and going through middle school was hard enough for me, but just seeing I'm kind of I don't want to say overprotective, but I monitor what my kids are exposed to as much as I can anyway. But it's so hard. there's just so many more avenues of pressure and less of that. Let's play outside and ride our bikes and those in-person connections. I almost feel like we're a society now that's disconnectedly connected. Like, we're always on our devices, we're always busy, but like, are we really connecting with the people around us, in our real circles? And so just making sure that they understand that intentional time and the value of spending time together is really important. And it really makes us, I mean, I grew up where my grandparents had a garden and, we had meals, and I feel like we're just so busy sometimes. One's working, one's this, and I feel like it's more scattered now than it used to be. I feel like technology is a big babysitter for a lot of children, and there's less connection time overall. And I can't speak for everyone. It's just kind of the norm that I see in my circle and in our environment and what I hear from my kids.
And Krystel, how do you compete with that? So I'm always fascinated with, here you have all these distractions and the influences of others and peer pressure, and then yet you want to be able to keep the family unit and make sure that, they're not using their devices and out gardening or what have you. How do you teach them? Like, how do you do that in your family?
Well, to be honest, it's almost nearly impossible. I try. Our oldest is working, so at least he has like the work ethic and things like that going for him. And the middle guy, he's kind of our tech guy, and that is his way of socializing. But really just setting by example, hey, I'm going for a walk. Do you guys want to go out for a walk? Do you want to go out and shoot some hoops on the basketball court? Do you guys want to, just trying to involve them as much as possible. And, for my daughter, limiting that screen time, hey, let's take the phone, let's watch a movie, let's snuggle, let's hang out, let's go do something interactive together. Let's go to the beach, let's cook dinner together, just really in modeling the behavior. Because if I'm sitting and I'm on my phone or I'm on the computer all the time, which drives me crazy, I can't, but, obviously we have to some extent, for work and whatnot, but really, especially for the 3-year-old, try not to use my devices around him, because I want to give him that. And he's funny, he'll just take it from you anyway. Like, he wants that intentional time. So just enjoying the small things, and it's good for me. I feel like that's something that I kind of lost before he was born 3 years ago, and the world shut down and there we were all at home in the stillness but it was beautiful in a sense. It was kind of a crazy situation in life, but it really, we got out, we swam in the pool, we hung out in the yard, we walked around, I feel like it created more connection for us, to be honest. So just trying to, now that life's pretty much in full stream again, making that intentional time, but it takes discipline. It really does.
Yeah.
I think we should at this point mention that you're part of the Beall's Department Store family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you're in the Southern United States, to those listeners who are elsewhere and they don't shop there. I guess my question at this point is, you've just told us earlier about your own upbringing and why you feel it's important to perhaps bring the next generation along, I guess is probably a hackneyed way of saying that. But who are you, with the organizations that you're involved with, who are you targeting? Who are these kids? Where do they live? And what are their circumstances?
So for Beall's Inc., I'm the Community Outreach and Philanthropy Coordinator. So, we created this position a couple years ago, and it's been so much fun. So really what I've tried to do is be very intentional about, because we have retail stores all over the United States now. We have Beall's Florida, which are just in Florida, and then we have Beall's, which were formerly Beall's Outlet, but they are all along the Sun Belt up, and I think there's over 600 stores now. And then Rugged Earth Outfitters and now Home Centric. So there's a ton of stores out there. So we have store employees, we have corporate employees, distribution center employees, we have distribution center in Texas. So what we've done as a collective, also an LA office. So collectively, what I've tried to do is, obviously retail store, you have buyers. So the buyers get samples. So how can we utilize our resources that we have here, the excess of stuff, and give that back in a great way? So what we've done is create a system to where every week, the buyers purge a certain amount of things, like maybe one week it's ladies apparel and juniors accessories, and the next week it's home, and the next week children and men's. And so in each week we have a system as to what charity picks that up, where it goes. And so we've really partnered with some great organizations that have a global reach. Souls for Souls is one of them. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of them. They're a fantastic organization, and they pick up quarterly, they get a big truckload, and they're able to distribute that charity that we give them to people all over the world, which is really fantastic. We have another charitable partner, One More Child, who's a ministry-based partner. So we obviously get a ton of donation requests just come in from random organizations. So we are able now to outsource the donation requests we get to our charitable partners, so then they can help them. So for example, we partner with the Derek Brooks Foundation in Tampa, and they have a really great charity there where they give back with law enforcement and really get the community involved and really spread awareness for the children. But we're doing a lot of back to school campaigns. So on our last call, they mentioned, hey, we have this F elementary school in Pensacola. How can we help them? So I immediately thought of our Souls for Souls partner. Let's reel them in. Let's get on a call. So what we're able to do now is we're going to provide the backpack. Souls for Souls is going to provide the shoes for the give back. We're all going to do this event at the school. So really it's, children, families, educational stuff. We have some scholarship programs as well. We have one, the Beall Foundation, that I'm actually just appointed president of, which was super exciting, but kind of bittersweet at the same time because my aunt's retiring and she's kind of been the head of it for so long and the one who got me involved in the scholarship foundation. But so we supply or provide scholarships to our employees' children, which is really great. And it's a benefit. I mean, we're talking any, the store employees, DC employees, it's available to everyone. There's some criteria that they have to meet. So that's a really great resource that we can do for our employees, providing scholarships for their children. And we do trade schools, we do universities, and we do, technical schools and community college and such. So that's a really great benefit, as well as the Bell Reekman Foundation, where we are able to provide more scholarships to more like a Boys and Girls Club and, reaching those types of organizations as well. And we're involved with Take Stock in Children. So we partner with them to do scholarships and mentoring for students in the community. So our employees are able to mentor. I'm actually a Take Stock mentor as well. So just really, it's a broad range, everything from working with Feeding Empty Little Tummies, this local Palmetto, center that packs bags full of food that distributes them to all the Manatee County schools every week, to the global partners at Souls for Souls. I mean, we do a lot in between. So it's really nice to be a part of it and to get the community involved.
And Krystel, apart from not sleeping,
it sounds like way more than it is.
There's a massive drive. I feel there's this need for you to make all of this happen. And I also heard post-traumatic stress disorder. Where is your healing and your need to want to help others? How does that all fit? Where's the satisfaction? Where is that for you?
Okay, so that's, like I said, had a child during COVID, life hit hard in the stillness. Yeah. That's really what I started to discover, some of the patterns, some of the, the anxiety that I was having that didn't feel like just anxiety. It was almost like survival mode anxiety, but I think we're kind of all in survival mode at that point in time. But I'm one of those people that just dive deep into it. So honestly, my husband and I went to Amen Clinics and I got brain scans, which I'm a super nerd with this kind of thing. I come from health and fitness background. And so I've always been very intrigued by human health and behavior. And I would even notice when I was training people and teaching group exercise classes, like it's very mental, obviously it made me feel good. And I realized once I stopped teaching those classes and I've always been one to be heavily active, but the gym shut down and it's a little different. So I didn't have that outlet that I had for my entire life. I was always athletic. And so really realized, that it affected me not having the body movement that I once did. So I started diving deeper. I've had a talk therapist for many years, but really diving deep into conversations with her after the brain scan, seeing the emotional scan of the PTSD, understanding what trauma was like, diving deep into trauma therapies and healing. And, I've done EMDR and all kinds of neurofeedback. And so I found actually kind of by default, one of my girlfriends was setting up for an event for a resilient retreat. And she's like, you would just love the mission of this organization. You would just love them. And so I went and did a tour, and oh my gosh, it was all of the healing modalities I had done for myself wrapped into one. So Resilient Retreat is a nonprofit in Sarasota. We do virtual and in-person programming for survivors of trauma, abuse, helping professions, and first responders. And I remember doing the tour and they were still under construction. I was just like, you're doing what? You're doing what? Like, I think I like grabbed and hugged Lisa like 3 times, which led to a lunch with Sydney Turner, their founder. And, I just poured my heart out, like went into detail about, childhood trauma and current day things and things in my marriage, things with my children, all the things. And, that was followed by an invitation to be on their board. And so here I was like, wow, like for the first time, I've really shared my heart and shared my story, and it has value. So really understanding the power of sharing and understanding that I was not alone. Like this person had been through just as much, if not more, than I had. And look at this amazing organization she created out of that. So I really jumped on that bandwagon. And it's not even a bandwagon. It's just another, again, a part of my soul mission. And now understanding, what our children have gone through, what we've all gone through in the past 3 to 5 years with, the craziness going on. Like mental health is a huge priority. It always has been, but I think that our generation is really opening up to be more open. Like, let's talk about this. Let's address some of these concerns. Like isolation is not good for people. We are meant to connect, understanding all of that and continuing my own healing modalities and just understanding how much, so now I did the neurofeedback and I've had incredible results. And I understand that, just because you're diagnosed with something like PTSD, it's not a life sentence. If you can heal yourself out of those things. So that's a huge part of my life, and my life mission is, supporting organizations in mental health and getting these things into our school systems and, judicial systems and providing these services. And I love Resilient Retreat because they provide free services, and they also do, paid trainings and stuff like that. We actually had a lunch and learn at Beall's where we had Mandy come on and just do like a trauma training, because it's so impactful for everyone to understand what trauma responses are. Like, yes, there's anxiety, but there's a root to that anxiety. There's root causes for these types of, reactions our minds and our bodies have. So just really understanding that on a deeper basis. And, now I'm kind of flourishing into creating my own. Like I started this Crystal Queer podcast. I started recording. I haven't launched it yet. And I've just found that sharing my story and understanding other people's journeys, I had my my acupuncturist, which is essentially become my functional medicine doctor, come on, and understanding holistic views. And there's just so many options out there that aren't really necessarily readily available to all of us. So just sharing all the things to help people. Maybe, and that's what helped me, is just listening to people's podcasts, reading certain books, certain things that struck chords with me, like, wow, I can really relate to that. I'm going to dive deep into this. And just understanding that I wasn't alone in the whole situation. And now that I'm in a great place, in a solid place, sharing that with the world and kind of getting it out there. So hopefully it'll help other people.
So society-wise, in listening to you, it sounds like you believe that these sort of effects from trauma go through society from top to bottom. And it just made me think of a woman that we had on the podcast a while ago. Her name is Sue Gandy, and she lives in outside of Chicago in Illinois. And she decided she saw a need in the community where she decided to start a food bank out of her own garage, with her own money. And it ended up.
She still needs help, by the way.
Well, and she still does it. And of course, it's expanded that she's not only providing food to people in the community. Now she's also providing clothing through donations and what have you. But what she discovered was that no matter where you live or where you are, there are these bands like rings, I guess is what I'm trying to say, of people who are in desperate situations that I think a lot of us, myself included, aren't even aware of.
Right.
It sounds to me like you're not only seeking those people out, which I think is very commendable, but are you finding that perhaps it's just as bad as it always has been, or perhaps even worse as a result of the pandemic, as a result of recession or pending recession, as a result of interest rates, collapsing banks? I mean, people are inundated with anxiety.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, like the cost of living has gone up like 128 or something percent in Florida in the past 20 years. But the average salary has not. So what we're finding, and what I even experienced with my own community, is, we have teachers and colleagues and friends who are getting evicted from their home. I mean, they're working middle class people, but the cost of living is going up so much that they can't afford to live there. Or there's, and that's what I love about Souls for Souls, is they provide resources for these children who are experiencing homelessness. And homelessness isn't necessarily living in a shelter. It's, maybe they got evicted from their home and they don't have a place to live right now because their parents can't afford it. And it's absolutely, it's still a huge concern.
And clearly that
I mean,
affects your
like everything.
development, your
Yeah,
self-confidence, your
absolutely.
education. If you don't get enough food, you're not going to do well, those things.
Right. And we, like I was saying, Feeding Into Little Tummies is an organization that we go and, they pack bags and they give the food bags to the kids every Friday. And they were saying, we have a difficulty when it gets to middle school and high school, because the elementary school kids are excited to get their bag to go home. But, once you get into the years that it's not cool to accept your food bag, even though you really need it. So these children, because of the lack of confidence and the embarrassment, like they're shy to get their food. They don't want to, even though they really need it, because the parents are working. I see it on our scholarship foundation applications. There's children, in their teens, they're helping with grandma that lives at the house. They're working a job, and they're still making great grades and still managing to do community service. And it's like, they are children. And we're in this almost like this success, but like, what is success? Like, if these children aren't able to have a peace in their hearts and their minds and their spirits, or sit down and have a meal with their family, it's really sad, because you're seeing that a lot. People are working. And I feel like the reward for them, it's really sad. So it pulls my heartstrings. And that's why I just try to provide so many resources for all the people that we work with. And I feel like that's almost a gift in my, if we can't help you, I know someone else that can. Yeah. Because you can't always help everyone. So I try to just keep my mental log of all the things and all the places, all the resources. If we can't provide you donations, this organization may be able to. If we can't give you diapers because we don't sell diapers, maybe this place can, and just providing as many resources for these people as possible. Like I said, I grew up and, it was a middle-class family. I never wanted and needed for anything living with my grandparents, but there's a lot of educational resources I could have used. I could have definitely used someone, like a Girls Inc. that would help me understand how to fill out a college application and, not get a private student loan. And so just really partnering with these organizations and spreading the word as much as possible.
And, and Krystel, it's interesting, but it's almost as if what I'm hearing is that wouldn't it be great if all of these communities, so if you were, let's say, the conduit, or you were the connector of all of these resources, so that there's a sustainability model for mentoring and ensuring that these things are always met, so that kids are always fed, so there isn't something, no one's going to pull the carpet from under them, that there's always some, it's like, teaching people how to fish rather than, giving them the fish. And right. So I think, it's sort of, I hear all of these amazing things that you're doing, but, and yet imagine if you were that person that were able to bridge, and it sounds as if you are, being able to connect all of these so that there is a sustainability or a continuum model, for this.
Absolutely. And, and really at Beall's, that's what we've tried to implement as a corporation. My husband took over as CEO, December of 2019 before the world shut down. Yeah. And, since then, there's been a big push for the ESG, and I've worked close with that team. And it's like, how can we conserve? How can we teach our employees how to be more conservative, to conserve our resources? Some examples of what we've done around here are like, not putting pesticides and chemicals on our landscaping, only doing natural landscaping. So we're not pulling water from the ground. And, in Florida, it's, trying to conserve as much as possible, or eliminating plastics by getting different water fountains, and doing community garden ideas, like collaborating with things like that, and really trying to just spread awareness. I think you can't do it all for everyone, but it's really spreading that awareness. So hey, if someone started recycling, or someone stopped using pesticides, or whatever it is, like just spreading that awareness, I think is really all we can do, that's within our control. And then what people do with it from there is up to them. And it's really, it's sad to me that it's expensive to go and buy a bunch of organic vegetables. It really is. But it's, you could go to a fast food chain and buy a family of 6 a meal for $25. So it's really, I think, just trying to implement as much knowledge that we can on how to, make healthy choices and do our best to be a part of conservation and sustainability, at the same time providing the resources.
Yeah.
You sound so very busy in your daily life. I want to ask you this question, and that is, what's your takeaway from all this? What do you get out of doing all of this?
Honestly, it's so funny. You're not the first person that's asked me that. I don't think twice about it. Like, it is so fulfilling for me that I feel good at the end of the day. I go to sleep every night knowing I'm doing my best to provide what I can for my family, for the community, for, everything. I'm flooded with gratitude every day that I have the opportunity to do what I'm doing. That I think that's just what it is. It's the gratitude and the appreciation of being able to be a part of it. And I tell my director here all the time, he's fantastic. He's worked for Beall's for 30 years. And, every time I make a connection, like hooking this elementary school up with Souls for Souls, and knowing these 300 kids that have experienced so much trauma and they're in F school, they're going to get a really awesome back to school. These teachers are going to be incentivized. It's just, that brings me so much joy. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just the gratitude part of it. It makes me feel great to be a part of it. And it really is an honor.
You explained it beautifully. And Krystel, each week we ask our guests one question, and you've answered it in so many ways. And I think more of around the lines of, why do you specifically believe in people?
Oh, because I know for a fact that if I hadn't believed in myself all of these years, I wouldn't be here being able to do what I do. So it really is so much of an intrinsic motivation for me to show everyone that, like, they are the light. Like, it's okay. It doesn't matter where you've come from. It doesn't matter where you've experienced. Like, you are not your experiences. You are not your shortcomings. You are not the flamboyant things in life. Like, there's a deep person within all of us that needs love, unconditional love. We need connection. We need, just that confidence in knowing that we really are capable of doing beautiful, amazing things. We just need someone to believe in us. And that's what it took for me. It really took a couple people believing in me, and we have all of this.
Amy and I both want to thank you for joining us today, and we'll let you get back to your Brady Bunch or your Bell Bunch or whatever you've got going here.
All the things.
And what a life of community service. I think that we can all take something away from that. Thank you for being with us on Believe in People.
Thank you, Krystel.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, there's two ways of saying this phrase. There goes a busybody, or there goes a busy body. And my goodness, she is all over the place. And, I found that whole conversation very inspiring. And you go, Krystel. it's taken you somewhere.
It sure is. And I'm highly motivated. If you haven't, if you weren't inspired and are motivated to go out to your community and want to support all of the good work that people like Krystel are doing, then, then this definitely wasn't for you. But she is a go-getter. But more importantly, she takes action. She really walks the talk, or walks the walk. Is that what it is? So
Yep.
Yes, so she absolutely makes it happen. We're grateful for her. If you've been inspired by this episode today, then we encourage you to take action and subscribe to our podcast, Believe in People. Thanks so much.
Thank you.